right, so welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast. I'm super excited today. This one goes way back and really close to my heart. We got the LinkedIn legend, the top G, Mitch Gonsalves here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing blessed, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Super excited. So, man, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to kind of just get right to it. So, Mitch, let's just kind of go all the way back to the beginning, man. Let's just start with your story. How did this whole consulting thing get started? I know you kind of got the entrepreneurial bug early on, like I did, but when did it all start for you? When did you realize that you kind of had that itch?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll go back towards like even further than when I first started like this whole online marketing consulting space. So I've always been like an entrepreneur, man. Like ever since I was young, like even when I was a kid, I was, selling things. My dad told me like early on, 11 years old, I was door knocking, selling newspaper subscriptions door to door when I was like in like fifth, sixth grade or whatever. And so I always like had this like entrepreneurial mentality. And for anybody that, that's just tuning in, doesn't know me, I run a multiple seven-figure consulting and marketing agency now, and we're like consulting business, and we actually have a couple SaaS products and companies that we're building as well. But early on, I always knew I was an entrepreneur, man. I did I had a car detailing business when I was like 16 in high school. I'll just put it at this: I was like quote unquote the plug in high school, and I was always finding ways in terms of like making money. I was always self-sufficient, could never hold down a actual real job. And early on, man, I realized that being independent and being able to go and build my business, it was going to be the fastest path to help me secure my family and my future. And so very early on, I feel like I was very blessed because it was like right as I got out of high school, actually in high school, some of my friends were like trading stocks and stuff like that as well. So I kind of saw it firsthand that like, okay, there's other ways to make money. Right. And I was making more money than everybody around me. Like I was like stacking like a couple grand a month. I was making like 3, 4, 5 grand a month in high school, doing like car detailing business, newspapers, other like little entrepreneurial things as well. So I knew when I got out of there, I want to build a business. And I think I got really blessed because as soon as I got out, that's when like this whole online consulting marketing space blew up. So like 18 years old, fresh out of high school.
Wow, 18.
I went straight into, and I also like had money some money to invest. So I invested into programs, mentors, coaches. One of the first ones was actually Sam Ovens that we both are in his
shout out to
mastermind.
Sam Ovens. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He literally changed my life because like I was an 18-year-old kid and I feel like he like incubated me. Like I was like a science experiment essentially, especially going through his early programs with the mindset training. So it really like built a strong foundation in me from a very young age where like I was easily programmable. And so that's kind of what got me into this like fire and built inside of me to really to do some amazing things and like fire that ambition that I had in myself and give me a vehicle to make money with.
Yeah. So it's funny that the mindset thing from that course always comes up on every single testimonial. And we'll get into the testimonials in a second. But what was that like for you as an 18-year-old kid, right? Because it came like I was probably in my mid-30s when it hit me, but it had the same effect. What was that like, with that awakening to really go through some of that mindset stuff? How did that change you?
Yeah, well, I was also like early on as well, everyone was saying like, you got to read books and stuff. So I was very big into like reading. Still, even to this day, I read a lot of books. But going through that mindset training, really, it one of the biggest concepts that really like sent chills down my spine was because at the time I was 18 years old. I was delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut. So I was building my business on the side. I was door knocking, going like cold calling in between my shifts, and I'd be in the car bumming Wi-Fi off like Starbucks and stuff, and just trying to like do the business as well as I had to make some money somehow, right? So I was doing that, and but I would take pictures of myself, like delivering pizzas in this shitty situation in my dad's basement, broke college dropout kid, right? So I was taking photos of like it in real time and like what is happening, quote unquote, in the past.
Right.
One of the big things that hit me was one thing that he had mentioned in the mindset training was, or in just like this concept of, he consciously created his future before it happened,
Yes.
right? So he
Mythologize
was,
himself, right?
yeah,
That's what you're talking
yeah,
about. Yes.
yeah. He mythologized himself, meaning he planted and showcased the future steps in what he wanted to become, and that, going back to where I was doing everything in terms of current and past. I was had a vision for the future, but I didn't like methodically plan out specifically the next stages of my character
Yeah, that
and who I
identity
wanted to become and the identity and who I wanted to
in the
become
first person, right?
in the first person.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. So by doing that, it allowed me to build this character of myself and this identity and this self-image that allowed me to put in the right habits and the routines and become the person I need to become, because I was also not very, like, I wasn't a really outgoing person. I was scared of the phone and sales. So it
Yes.
allowed me to like build up like this like extreme like self identity for myself in terms of becoming a good at sales, building a 7-figure business and formulating that. And I had a conversation with one of our mutual friends, Quasi, and
Yes.
I was telling him, I'm like, one of the biggest concepts going back to mindset is that when you formulate that identity for yourself and who you see yourself, it then becomes a, it becomes easy for you to do those necessary things because that is who you are.
Yes.
For example, if you want to get in shape, right? I see myself as a person who works out. I see myself as a fit individual. So if I am a fit individual, what does that person do? They go to the gym, they eat healthy, they go to they have a diet, they have a workout plan, and they fit that into their lifestyle. And so now it's not of oh, I need to go to the gym. It's the gym is a part of me, and that's just something that I do because that's who I am. And
Yeah.
so that concept really in all facets like fundamentally changed the course of my life because now I can consciously create who I want to be.
Yeah, and I'm smiling because I know exactly what you're talking about. I know that feeling. It's funny enough, I
Mhm.
still have mine right here, my identity.
Yeah.
And I can remember my eyes being open
Mhm.
to that, which was a lot of times we wait for the compliments from other people that inspire us, but
Mhm.
life and death is in the power of the tongue. So you're now on a daily basis speaking these things over your own life, which one gives you confidence, right? It gets you
Mhm.
excited about the future, but it also, you're talking about it in the first person, which is the activated thing was, well, I can't remember what
Activating
it's called.
system. Yeah.
Yes, it's activated.
Yeah.
So it's that attraction thing. So, but that's just like one piece of it, right? But it's looking at the vision. First thing in the morning, that's what I did. As I looked at my vision board before I got out of bed, and what I realized what that did was that got me excited for the day that I needed to get up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm reminding myself every single day, like these are the desires of your heart. And if you stay in bed, if you press snooze,
Mhm.
if you roll over,
Mhm.
you say I'm going to get up in 5 minutes. Guess what? You're not going to achieve those things, and then
Mhm.
you got to get up and you got to speak those things over your life, right? And I'm
Mhm.
just looking at mine right here and I'm smiling. Arturo is a successful consultant who helps coaches and consultants and agency owners to grow their business to 100K per month, right? And I can
Mhm.
remember saying all of these things. I get amazing results from my clients. I deal with
Yeah.
complexity with ease, right? So you're nodding your head
Yeah.
because you remember
Yeah. Yeah.
saying these
One
things
hundred percent.
every single day and driving it into your psyche. And after a while, you start to believe these things, and then you start acting as if, and you start
Yeah.
expecting these things and attracting them. And it just
Absolutely.
does wonders for you for momentum, right? You start
Yep.
doing the impossible where you believe that you can do anything, so which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it radically kind of changed my perception on like who I am and
Mhm.
where I wanted to go. Um,
Yeah.
but let's take it back because I remember I was still life insurance agent when I found
Mhm.
you and some others, and
Mhm.
I got an affiliate email for $500 off, and I still have a screenshot of that to this day, and I talk about it all the time because I'm in contact with, I think his name's Nolan, and he was affiliate for Sam, and he sent me that email, and I checked it out, and that's how I came across you, because I was
Mm.
seeing this young 19-year-old kid that was at the
Mhm.
time your niche was financial advisors,
Yeah.
RIAs, right? Am I
Yep.
correct? Still remembering
Yep.
that? And I was a life insurance agent that was kind of frustrated and looking for mentorship and trying to figure this thing. I was like, there's got to be a way to do this online. And I saw you
Mhm.
doing it, and at this time I was in a really really low place, and
Mhm.
I remember watching your testimonial every single night before I went to bed for about 3 weeks straight
Mm.
until because it was like my mindset was just wrong. Like, this can't be true. This is too good to be true. This is too good to be true.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
just poured that in every single day. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, if this guy can do it, 19 years old, 18 years old, crushing it,
Mhm.
doing 30K a month. At that time,
Mhm.
that was like so much money to me, right? I was
Yeah.
like, man, well, I was a life insurance agent. I'm a life insurance agent right now. If he can do it, then I can do it. And that's when
Yeah.
I took the leap of faith. And I'll never forget. I had to borrow $900 from my mom to get started on the 6 pay for the program, and
Yeah.
that was history, right? That was a
Yeah.
game changer. In fact, I remember watching Sam's webinar 3 times. It was like 3 hours long back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to convince myself to get the courage to pull the trigger. And whoa,
Yeah.
was that the best decision that I ever made, man?
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And like the biggest thing that I see for most people is, and the ones that are successful between the ones that, they constantly just skate by, they've been in the market for the past 5 years, they're doing okay, but they're not where they want to be, is those are the people that are still on the fence.
Right.
They're still watching people on YouTube. They're still going through tutorials. They're still trying to figure it out and look at what you're doing, look at what I'm doing, and they think they can figure it out. We've been in the market now 5, 8 years, right? We've been in the trenches every single day. We actively use this stuff in our own businesses.
Yes.
And so when I look at where do I want to be, and when you were in that space, where did you want to be? You saw a guy like me who was in a position that you wanted to be in,
Yes.
and you knew it was possible. And so you had the faith and you pulled the trigger, and that changed the course of your life and what you're doing now. Now, similarly with what I see and what I would be watching people's testimonials and but now for me, when I get on a call with someone, 10K, boom, okay, what do you want, a credit card? Boom, and I just drop it.
Yeah,
Mastermind
for
50K,
sure.
okay, boom, because I know I'm not just buying this quote unquote product, I'm buying and compressing time to achieving my result. If someone's already been in the market for 10 years and they have things way better than me, right, or they've have a successful, whatever the case may be. They built $100 million sales teams. I want to learn from them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really just about looking at from that perspective as well. As I think a lot of people get caught up in that, and it's like at the same time you have to invest in yourself and mentorship and coaching, and you got to constantly be learning. I think that's the common denominator I see from most 7, 8 figure, 9 figure entrepreneurs that I know, my friends. We shell out money like it's
Yeah,
we're trying to get rid of it. We're trying to
for sure.
acquire more skills and knowledge and expertise so we can go and we can get to the next level.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on what you said is like, because I can remember watching YouTube video after YouTube video, and I was broke, and I
Mhm.
was laying on my couch, and I thought I was doing something at the time, right? And
Mhm.
all that is masking education, masks procrastination, right? Where
Mhm. Mhm.
you're actively like watching something, but you're in this dream state, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like why I kind of transitioned from listening to a lot of rap music, because I realized I was suspending my belief and saying these words for other people's dreams and what they were doing, and I was
Mhm.
still broke, living in a 1 bedroom apartment,
Mhm.
displacing this reality with those words. And I was like, wait a minute, I need to get in the game. And that's when I
Mhm.
realized, oh, I need to um, do some personal development. I need to find a mentor that's done what I want to do, right? That has come from where I am and achieve the goals that I want to achieve. And then I
Yeah.
got to become somebody that can take massive action and give me the results. And being from the South Side of Chicago, I've always kind of had that hustle in me, like you do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so once I got the opportunity, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I was just like, all right, let's
Mhm.
kind of get out of my way.
Yeah.
So let's kind of digress though. Being in your dad's basement, right? Working
Yeah.
at Pizza Hut, making dials in the car, and documenting that. At that
Mhm.
time, just kind of having this radical belief. How did you get
Mhm.
to where you are now? Like, what has transitioned? Because I know you were doing financial services, and so,
Yeah.
I kind of coin you as the king of LinkedIn. So, what's that journey been like, and like, who are you helping?
Yeah.
What are you trying to achieve right now?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. So I would say, like, people know me as like the king of LinkedIn, but it was out of necessity, right? So like obviously, when you're when I was in the basement and I was delivering pizzas, I was going door to door to businesses. I was going to like restaurants. I'd close some of them, right? But it was very manual. It was very in the flesh, and I had to go pick up a check, and it was just terrible, right? So, and then I was also at the same time I was studying currencies and commodity, like trading. Like I was day trading
Like
currencies and
forex trading,
commodity.
right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the problem was I was broke. I didn't have any money, right? So
Holy
I was
cow.
like, okay, this is the thing. Most people talk about passive income, all that stuff. I'm like, you should just be 100% focused on increasing your active income, right? So that's what I did. So I focused on building this business. And so I was trading and I was doing some like research and, trying to figure out like what niche I wanted to go into. And I was like, okay, well, I like trading. Eventually, maybe I want to create like a hedge fund. I don't know. I was 18 with a lot of ambition. So I'm like, why don't I was doing some research and I saw financial advisors and wealth managers. So I'm like, this is interesting. So I started diving a little bit deeper into it, hedge funds, things like that. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And then I searched it up and then I came across LinkedIn. And then I went and I was like, I typed in financial advisor in the search on LinkedIn and I seen like 250,000 or something like that. And I was like, or a million or whatever it was.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, this is a directory of like prospects. I'm like, what is this? Right. So I didn't even know about LinkedIn at the time. I probably heard of it, but I thought it was just like for getting a job or whatever. So I'm like, okay,
Yes.
this is interesting. And then I started like becoming obsessed with that. And I would go and then I figured out, okay, they have a premium version of it. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I paid for that and it opened up my eyes and I was like, holy man, like we literally have access to hundreds of thousands of leads at my fingertips. So
The
I literally meant
database.
the database of leads. And I look at LinkedIn as a big database, big data, right? That's what they are. They have 760 million people, I think, on LinkedIn now, or 800 million. So it's a database that we can tap into. And so essentially, I would literally live in LinkedIn for like 18 hours a day. I would scrape lists, I would send messages. And again, I used to do this all manually. Now we have like software that we built that automates a lot of this stuff. But I used to do it manually and I would just live in there. I would cold call them as well. So I'm like, hey, we're connected on LinkedIn. Da 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 da. So like, I was just like working the leads. And what happens is I noticed there's this compounded effect. After 3 months, the people I reached out to 3 months ago are now reaching back out to me and messaging me now. And so I noticed there's
Mm.
this like lag effect. There's this compounding effect, and I would just be in it consistently every single day. And then I remember I landed my first client, right? And I conceptually knew what I was going to offer them. I knew, okay, I knew a little bit of Facebook ads because I was running it for some restaurants. I knew funnels, I knew a little bit about this stuff,
Nice.
right? So I was like, okay, I sold this guy. I think it was like first client was like $1,500, right, a month, and and plus I had to run ad spend, so I made like nothing on it because I had to spend money on ads, and I was like, I'm going to spend it all to get him results, and so I got him results, and then I basically used those results to get another client, but I increased the price 3,500 a month. Then I increased it to 5,500 a month, and then I'll give you a piece of advice for everybody here, especially if you're in sales. Everybody knows this in terms of reverse engineering your goals. So my biggest thing was I want to make 10K a month, right? Because had no money, right? And so I
Yes.
had this in a vice grip, right? Where I was holding on to it. I was like, I want to make 10K a month. And so I kept focusing on the 10K a month and I kept saying by this time, by this next month, at this date, at this time. And I kept coming up short and I kept beating myself up about it, right?
Yes.
And then what I started when I switched my focus to, I'm like, okay, my goal is 10K a month. Well, what do I need to do to hit 10K a month? And so I noticed that, okay, well, I need to do X amount of sales, right? And in order to do X amount of sales, I need to do X amount of calls. And in order to do X amount of calls, I need to do X amount of outreaches. In order to do that, I need to be sending this many emails or doing this many LinkedIn messages every single day. And so what I did is I reverse engineered it down to, okay, what do I need to do every single day when I wake up to be able to hit that 10K a month? And so I would just wake up, man, and I would just hammer people all day. And I would just focus on booking. Like I would be pretty relentless where, okay, my goal is 3 calls booked today. I would not get off my computer or phone until I booked those 3 calls, right?
Yes.
So I would be pretty like relentless with that. And I remember that same month I changed that from I want to make 10K a month to focusing on the process and the actual outreach or what I need to do every single day, I hit 11K that month.
Yes.
I got 2 clients, 5,500, right?
Wow, that's amazing. So what's funny because I had the same shift because what what I realized is that my emotions kept going like this every week,
Mm,
every month, and
yeah,
I was like up here, the swings were so huge, and I was like, man, I got to figure this out. And I was like, oh, I have to disassociate myself from this goal and this number because if I
yeah,
don't hit this, it's starting to affect me mentally. And
mentally,
now I'm not
yeah,
doing it. And I need to get obsessed with the process and fall in love with the
yep,
process. And if I do that and fall in love with that, then it's inevitable that I'm going to hit my goal.
yeah,
But it also removes pressure off of me and allows me
exactly,
to just focus on, chunking down, right? I'm sure that's kind of where you're going with this is that you just chunk down from the goal.
yeah.
And I just focused on that and you look up and you surpass your
Yeah,
goal,
it's
right?
a faster goal, exactly,
Yeah.
and that's
But
that's what, Michael Jordan said. He said, "You wanna fall in love with the game and forget about the points, because if you fall in love with the game, you're gonna become so good that the points will just start racking up themselves."
for
Right?
sure. Yeah. So and then I want to backtrack a little bit too because that process was kind of similar for me. I don't know if you remember, but there was used to be a automation, a LinkedIn Chrome browser that got like banned back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
can't remember
link
what it was.
helper,
Huh? Yes, linked helper.
but
So I kind of started with the same process. So I went to Fisk University here in Nashville, and right across the street was a medical college. So I
mhm,
didn't know anything about social media either. So I just was like, huh, I'm cold calling people. I'm beating up the same list as a life insurance agent, dialing, 40 to
mhm,
$150 per day.
mhm,
I'm like, I got a social network. I've got to be able to use this in some capacity. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember
mhm,
it was right around Christmas time, and so right around this time, I was like, I'm gonna just see what can happen. So I started
mhm,
looking through my contacts, and I knew that some people from my school ended up going to medical school. So I started checking out their friends and adding
mhm,
those people. And at that time, what's one thing that doctors have the biggest problem with is student loans and taxes. So I became the
mhm,
student loan specialist as a life insurance agent using my networking
mhm,
from Facebook.
mhm,
Well, the problem with that, it was all manual, right? Again, it's
yeah,
all manual. I'm
yeah,
beating up the phones and trying to keep track of 200
mhm,
DMs in a day.
mhm,
But also,
mhm,
Facebook won't allow you to send so many
yeah,
messages.
yeah,
You
yeah,
get put in Facebook jail. So I'm like, well, one, there's got to be a solution to automate some of this, right? So I'm
mhm,
searching through forums and this and that, and I'm like, okay, there's got to be something. So finally, I stumble across the LinkedIn helper. Well, the problem with that is that got shut down too.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I can remember getting my first client. I was still waiting tables at the time because I was like, all right, I need to go back to the drawing board and figure out something besides doing life insurance because I want to be able to use social media and automation. And my captive company was like, you
mhm,
can't use social media. So I was like,
mm,
okay, fine. So I'm waiting tables and going through the consultant accelerator, and I finally get a guy to say yes. And I'll
mhm,
never forget this because I was like 15 minutes late for work because we have something
mhm,
called pre-shift, and I had to go downstairs in the stairwell and I closed this guy for $500 a month. Well, the software that I need, he already had, but he didn't tell me, which was Ulink, because at
mm,
that time, LinkedIn Helper had got shut down, and I didn't
yeah,
know about Ulink. But when I did find out about it, you had to get referred in. So my
mhm,
first client already had it, and that was the game changer for me because
mm,
he didn't know how to use it as a
yeah,
financial
yeah, yeah,
advisor. So I was like, I reached out to support, was like, hey, can you give me an account? And
mhm,
so that's when everything changed for me.
yeah,
And obviously, I went through that same process,
yeah,
500 to 1500 to 2000. Then I went from done for you to done with you to create a course of teaching them how to
yeah,
do it. And then I learned Facebook ads. And so that was kind of the same trajectory, which is
yeah.
pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. But anybody that's listening too, man, it's like you gotta forget about the goal, and no, you gotta always remember the goal, but you gotta like detach yourself from the actual time frame. Now, you want to be urgent in the day to day, but you want to be patient for the longer range goals, and it's better to set bigger goals that I believe that are longer range, and having targets and objectives that you hit on a daily, weekly, monthly basis
Mm,
to then give yourself and relieve yourself of that pressure and stress of, oh, I got to hit 22K a month by September 2022 or 2024 or whatever. And if I don't hit it, then like you're going to be like super depressed and like
Yeah.
you're going to beat yourself up. And I see this happen even with some of my sales reps, and like I have to like coach them through it because it becomes this negative loop and mindset where they get put into this state where they don't think that they can achieve these goals. And so yeah, I think it's just super relevant, especially when you're in some sort of sales or even in business when you set goals.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you master LinkedIn, and then you're helping out financial advisors. So
Yep.
where did you go from there?
Yeah, so I grew that. So I'll tell you this story again because like now this talks about compounding. So as soon as I made that shift in my mind, I made 11K that month. The very next month, I made over 20K a month. The
Mm.
very next month, I made 30K a month. The next month, I made 40K a month. The next month, I made 50K a month. So I was stacking 10K months on top, monthly recurring revenue, right? Because I had the agency. So I had scaled that to about $500,000 a year pretty quick. And I did that interview with
Yes,
Sam.
I remember
And
that because you said
yeah,
you did. You was like, I'm pissed. I remember this, and this is what blew my mind. He was like, I didn't want to even do this interview. You said it at the
yeah,
end
yeah,
because you wanted to make sure you got to 100K. I
yeah,
remember that, and I was like, dude, this guy's got a different mindset back then. Because
yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted to do 10K a month. He's mad about doing 30K a month.
Yeah, I didn't even want to do it. Sam asked me, and I'm like, man, I wanted to wait till I did 100K a month, but I did it anyways because there's opportunity. But anyways, that interview got over 100,000 views, and so I had a bunch of like that used to feed me a lot of business. Sam took it down now. I'm
I
pissed.
know, man. I never
Uh,
got to do one because I got to
yeah,
like 7 figures in 18 months right as
yeah,
he stopped and started like
yeah.
cutting him down. I was like, dude, I wanted to get on there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe you can get on this podcast now. But in terms of that, man, so I scaled that up, and then I had a bunch of people reach out to me in terms of mainly from other programs that I was in, and they're like, "Man, how are you using LinkedIn? How did you scale your agency? All this stuff." And so I basically just started. I did a webinar for free. And,
Hmm.
most people, when they do webinars, it's like at the end, they pitch you something, right? This was a webinar. I did it for an hour. I literally just showed them what I was doing. It was basically like a course, basically. Like, think about someone's paid course. I did that it for an hour, and I showed them exactly what I was doing. I gave them a Google Doc, step by step, what they need to do. And at the end, like there's like 15 people on there. They're like, "Why are you doing this?" Right? Like, and like because it was foreign because I didn't need the money, right? I already had a business. I had no like I didn't even want to coach anybody or do any of that stuff. So I just wanted to grow my business. And one of those guys was now my now business partner, Glenn. He
Yes.
asked, he asked, he's like, "Man, like why are you doing this?" I said, "Man, because I believe in the law of reciprocity. And I believe that what I put out there is going to come back to me in ways that I cannot even imagine." Right. And so this is my gift to you guys. Like this is I'm giving back what I've learned so you guys can shortcut your journey. And Glenn 3 months later came back to me, fully automated the process, found a better automation tool. Mine was like
He was
semi-automated
your
at that
student
time.
at this time.
No, no, not even a student, just
Not
somebody at
yet.
a webinar, right?
Okay.
So he didn't even pay me. So, anyways, he took my system that I showed him for free on this webinar, and he basically just went and fully automated it, showed it to me. I on between that 3 month time before I chatted with him again, I had taken on about 3 people, 4 people for mentorship. So there's this one 19-year-old kid. I had sympathy, empathy for him. I was like, okay, man, I'll help you out. So he actually came through my funnel for a financial advisor, but he kind of filled out a fake app. So I'm like, I'm on the call anyways. It's supposed to be a strategy sales call. So I'm like, I'll just give you free value. So I basically was mentoring him. He went from making like $2,000 a month to 60 grand a month in a short period of
Whoa.
time. And then he recently sold his agency actually for like a couple $100,000 or maybe even 7 figures. But so I was like, okay, man, like I can help more people with the same process. And so me and Glenn decided to partner up, and that's when we kind of started Executive Advantage, which is my now company. And we basically just started out originally with a LinkedIn program in terms of helping people with systems, scaling their business, getting qualified appointments, building out their organic outreach, and putting appointment setters in place. And so that's kind of how we originally scaled. And now we have kind of a mastermind. We have other software tools that we use as well to help people scale. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we did. But when after we partnered up, within 4 months, man, we were doing 7 figures with that business from
Wow.
scratch.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. And so,
yeah,
but you said something that was really cool. You said something about reciprocity. And I've been kind of preaching this to some of the life insurance agents that I'm helping is that like, there's so many people asking you for things, for your
yeah,
attention, for your money, your email address, right?
mhm,
There's always somebody taking something from you or trying to get something from you. And if you just become somebody that is valuable, that just gives value and not like fake value, like you genuinely want to help
mhm,
somebody. I think Jim Rome says that uh, uh, reciprocity, right? That the giving starts the receiving process. That once you put that into place, that could become the
yeah,
eighth wonder of the world because people remember that. And when you genuinely want to help people and you're giving,
mhm,
you're gonna stand out because most people are
mhm,
asking them for something, right? And so
yeah,
if you just do that, like you're ahead of the game, right? Just
yeah,
giving straight value and is also thinking long term, right? Like, yeah, you
yeah,
could make a sale, but I mean, imagine how many lives you could impact if people didn't feel sales pressure, that they could just listen in, right? And
mhm,
consume your content, right? Build trust with them. Like, dude, your cup would be running over. So, yeah, the
yeah.
reciprocity thing is huge.
Yeah, Zig Ziglar said, "If you just help enough people get what they want, you can have anything you want." Right, and so that was something early on that I live by, man. So at the end of the day, it's like if you're providing a lot of value to somebody, they feel like indebted to you, right? And so they're going to want to give you money or referrals or whatever the case may be. But I always live with that mentality because at the end of the day, if you can help someone, what is the downside for you? There's no
Yeah.
downside.
For sure. So it kind of brings us up to speed because now, wait a minute. So who are you helping now? Who's your target
Yeah,
market
yeah.
or
So
who's
we
your
we,
audience?
we mainly help like B2B businesses. So
Okay.
mainly coaches, consultants, marketing agencies, SaaS companies, IT. But it's really anyone that's selling B2B,
Mm-hmm.
um, high ticket.
And what are you helping them with specifically?
So mainly with systems. So we have a really strong organic system utilizing LinkedIn and also like a fully automated process in terms of, also follow up via email, text messages, basically a full on client acquisition machine for organic. So we do have that. And then we also have a higher level services where we also help people with YouTube ads and sales funnels to generate calls. So that's kind of the main thing we're doing now, but it's mainly putting systems in place, sales and marketing systems for scaling to 7 and 8 figures.
And what's the name of your program?
So the name of the company is Executive Advantage. The name of the program, we have one that's called Enterprise Elite,
Okay.
and one that we have the Board Mastermind right now.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about the board mastermind because I've seen some clips where it looked pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Who are you working with? Who are you looking to work with? What's kind of going on
Yeah.
in the board?
Yeah. So our mastermind is mainly fit for somebody that's already doing, let's say, 15 to 30K a month. So they're really north of like, I'd say 20K a month is ideal. And essentially what we do is we basically help them to put the whole advertising system in place. So a lot of the times they have the systems for organic, right? They've gotten some clients, they're making money, and they want to scale. And so we help them on one front, which is generating more inbound automated qualified appointments. And then second is helping them build their sales team. So, and essentially the front end is all about YouTube ads, putting this funnels in place. So we help them script their ads, script their funnel, their VSLs. We give them all the templates, and then we even help them launch the campaigns. And then on the back end, we also help them eventually once their calendars are packed. We help them
Yes.
recruit closers and appointment setters to fill their calendar even more and scale. Really, the goal is seven and ultimately getting to like multiple 7 figures, even 8 figures.
Awesome, awesome. Well, yeah, man, this has been absolutely outstanding, and like I said, it's been full circle, going
Mhm.
from a guy on his couch watching this young kid,
Yeah.
help service the industry that I love the most, to
Hmm.
then, being in the same community, and then being in the
Yeah.
same mastermind group, to now being on the podcast. Definitely, one of those things that come to fruition for me and come full circle, which is pretty
Absolutely, brother.
awesome. And it really just comes down to showing the power of mentorship. Like, I always talk about the consulting accelerator being like that Mona Lisa of digital products, where man,
Yeah.
that product had hundreds of hours of training in it, but it took somebody that really cared, right? It didn't just
Hmm.
want to be a marketer, marketing to marketers, and
Yeah.
really went in depth with mindset, teaching you sales, right? The Sam Love
Mhm.
and silence,
Yeah.
and going into depth with the Facebook ads training, so you knew exactly what you needed to do to get your clients the best results, and then
Yeah.
focusing on operations, right? And then
Mm.
how to productize your service. So those things were tremendous for both of us, I can tell,
Mhm.
just from
Yeah.
following each other's journey. But as you look back, right, like from where you are right now to where you started, what are some things that have kind of been the most transformational things for you over this journey that switch kind of clicked? So if you were just like giving that younger Mitch some advice, to kind of
Yeah.
speed up the process, what were some things that you probably would tell him to do or not to do?
Yeah, it was funny, man. So when I turned 25 this year, I put a video on YouTube about what I wish I knew when I was younger from a 25-year-old millionaire. And so I basically put that on. But I'll tell you, the number one thing is committing to becoming like this elite specimen. And that's an excellence in all facets of your
Mm,
existence, right? So one of the biggest things that, again, going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, the biggest, most transformational things were not business related. They were personal related, meaning the character, who I was becoming, the habits I adopted, the energy that I was putting out there, and the overall just this character and identity that I had built for myself. And one of the biggest things too, I look at, like you have on your shirt, you have rapper, athlete, entrepreneur. I look at entrepreneurs as athletes as well. And so one of the biggest things I did as well is I hired a high performance coach that helped me with my health, helped me with get dialing in my mindset, my sleep, literally everything. And so one of the biggest things that I would say is if you're dialed in on those things and you're doing the necessary habits internally for yourself and you're building the discipline, it's going to show up in every single area of your life. And so that was one of the biggest things, and formulating that future for yourself in terms of letting it pull you in the direction rather than waking up every day and trying to push yourself and try to force yourself to do these things. Having that compelling vision, having that compelling manifesto that you write for yourself,
right.
detailing the life you have for yourself. That was one of the most transformational things for myself. I still go back to this all the time, and I'm constantly calibrating where I want to go next, and really focusing on those habits, those routines, and building myself into this quote unquote elite specimen, this rare breed of individual that can go out and achieve things effortlessly because I've just built them into me and they became just my overall hygiene standard, right?
Yeah, man.
So,
And that's great because I'm glad you shared that, because that just is just like that's leadership right there. That's true leadership by actions, right? You want to become a high
mhm.
character man, and people want to follow those people. You just attract people. You don't have to go out and find people. And with my team, we always talk about that. It's like I want you to be successful,
Yeah,
personally, professionally, and spiritually, right? And so,
yeah,
Sam always used to say, right, people don't have business problems; they have personal problems that reflect in their
in the
business.
business. Yep.
And a lot of this just comes down to like high performance, discipline, and routine. If you can't go to bed at the same time, how
Yeah,
you going to run a company if you can't turn the Netflix off, right?
yeah,
Right? To be ready to fight for your clients every single day with that energy, that drive, and that
yeah,
passion. Because if you don't, that younger, more hungry Mitch, right, is gonna come right behind
yeah,
you and take all your clients.
yeah.
And I
But that's
think I
another thing, brother. I want to touch on is urgency. I feel like a lot of people, especially after this pandemic that we had, complacent, right? And most people, especially that are listening to this, they're comfortable, right? They're probably, they say they want to do it. They say they want, to make seven figures, 100 grand a month. They want to scale their business. But the ones that truly do, man, I'm telling you, they inject themselves with urgency, and they have this like extra level of hunger and tenacity to actually make it happen, where they're not waiting for things, they're making it happen. That goes back to like even sales if you're in sales every single day, you compress time, you live in those day tight compartments, and every single day you're trying to maximize and soak up that entire day. I feel like a lot of more people need urgency, and they need to essentially look at where they are, and especially in that complacent state,
Mm,
and they need to throw themselves into uncomfortability, meaning doing the things that are uncomfortable, having those cold showers, waking up early, putting themselves in positions where they're putting out YouTube videos, or they're doing things that are not the same things they've always been doing. Because, as Joe Dispenza says, if you keep doing the same things over and over again, you're going to get similar results. And if you keep waking up in the same environment, and you keep waking up in the same things that are around you with the same people, you start to go with the familiar past, and
yeah.
your familiar past will create a familiar future. But if you want a different future, you need to go and step into this unknown, this zone of where you're creating from this new, meaning your environment's changed, the people around you are changing, you're in different social circles, you're in different communities, you're in different mastermind events, and you're able to then be in this new state to create something new from that state. Like, that's why I moved from Toronto to Miami, and every time I do, level up. I invest into masterminds. I'm in a different state. I'm in a different social circle. I hang out with people that are making more money than me, right? So I think that also has a big, massive impact on most people, because they keep doing the same things and they
Yeah.
keep getting similar results.
And that's very interesting that you say that, because it just comes back down to people have gotten comfortable, right? And one of the
Yeah.
things that really changed my life was when I saw this, and then I actually understood it. Where,
Mm-hmm.
the guy draws a circle, and he's like, "What are some of the things that you want? You want a house, you want a new car, you want to
Yeah.
go on vacation, you want to be able to retire your wife, you want to be able to buy whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari, Rolex, whatever it is." And he's drawing these little circles around this big circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Well, this circle in here, guess what's in the middle? That's your comfort zone, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this on a page, all of these things that you want to achieve in your life are outside of your comfort zone. So, in
Yep.
order to achieve these things, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's where all the growth happens.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll tell you this, because I didn't fully understand that concept when I was younger. I mean, I thought it was cool, like cliche thing to say, like get comfortable being uncomfortable. But I didn't realize how powerful it actually was when you get into these states. Because I think when you're on the come up, you're naturally uncomfortable. Your situation sucks, right?
Desperation is what that
Yeah,
is.
desperation, and it breeds that urgency, and it forces you not to be complacent. I mean, some people still, they're okay with making 3 grand a month, and living and whatever, but other people are in that state where they must make it work, right? And so it forces them out of it, right? But once you get and you start making more money, you're in a different place, you're in a nice penthouse or high rise, whatever, and you get in that state. Comfortability is a blanket that keeps you warm, right?
Mm,
And you get in this state where it's nice and warm in this blanket, right? And you don't realize that you're in this comfortable state. But you got to rip that fucking blanket off and go and have a cold shower, jump in the cold
yes.
plunge, and freeze your nuts off, right? Because it's gonna put you and force you to where now you're in this survival instinct to, like, okay, fuck, I need to get out of this, right? And so I feel like a lot of people are curled up, in this comfortable state, and even for myself, I have to force myself every single day to put myself in uncomfortability, because that forces me to level up,
Yeah.
forces me out of to do the things that I know I need to do. And again, it's not something that is just there. It's something that I have to consciously do, because if not, you're gonna just seep into comfortability. And one of the things that Warren Buffett says, he says the chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. And so
Yeah.
then you get into these habits where you're locked in and you're just in the same place, complacent. So I would say anybody listening is like, throw yourself in those uncomfortable spaces every single day. Like, make it a conscious habit.
Mm. Yeah. So it's, man. So obviously, a lot of the things that we, have contributed to our success we're aligned with, because we've practiced these things.
Yeah.
And I can remember back in like 2019 when like Billy Wilson was like super hot, 2020 when the cold showers was the thing, right? Like that
Yeah.
was like the high, now it's the cold plunge, but back then it was taking a cold shower. And I can remember just doing 30 days of the cold showers. And
Hmm.
I'm a little bit older, so I always am like thinking about things on two levels. And I realized two things from the cold shower that worked for me was one, instantly it changes your state and your mood. Right. If you were
Yeah.
mad about something or you're thinking about something else, that cold water is going to get your attention that you're not even going to be able to think or worry about that. Right. And then the second thing is it creates a sense of urgency. Like if you take a 20-minute shower, that's going to be a 4 to 6 minute
Yeah. Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
and you're going to get out of there. Well, why is that
Mhm.
important? Because that time compounds, right? Like we
Yeah.
say, I talk about this all the time too. There's one thing about successful people that you know is they have an extreme and profound sense of urgency about everything, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And so just thinking through that sense of urgency, like you're saying, being comfortable. And so I want to transition because you changed your environment, right? Which is like the
Yeah.
biggest way to equalize being comfortable. So
Hmm.
what have you seen or what transition have you made because you have moved to Miami now and you're around people that are doing 1 million a month and I seen you in like a background photo. So I'm like, oh, he's hanging around with some wolves now that are a little bit ahead of you. And so now
Yeah.
you have another goal that's higher to achieve, but also just getting around them to see what they're talking about. What kind of effect has changing locations in your environment had on you and your business?
You normalize higher levels of success, right? And so it's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all ships, right? And so I would say that, man, like one of the biggest things, it's not necessarily like the people, because I believe it's all about your character,
Mm.
your heart, you're serving others. Like it's all about these things because there's a lot of artificial people. There's a lot of people that, yeah,
Fugazis.
yeah, yeah, fugazi, fugazi, whatever. And so there's a lot of those people out there, man. And like, I mean, it's cool. Like I hang out with them, I go to dinners, but I have some really close friends that do like 2 million a month, 1.5 million a month. But it just normalizes this environment where I go out to dinner and there's heavy hitters and we're all just hanging out as friends. So it's like this circle, and they say this all the time that you're the sum of the five people you hang around with. One of the biggest things of moving to Miami, it allowed me to get in close proximity with heavy hitters, right? Where we're at dinner, we're talking about strategies on scaling the business. I'm talking about leadership, running sales teams, like taking things to the next level, even just like we were talking about with content before we got on, like what people are doing there. So you just kind of get in uh, these conversations, and it allows you to be in the room with people that are way like ahead of me, right,
Mm.
of where I want to be. So again, it normalizes that, where for them doing 2 million a month is like their standard, right? So it forces you again to level up. Like you can't not level up, because if you're doing less than that, you ultimately feel like, not, I wouldn't say like insecure in a sense, but it's like, fuck, I need to be doing better,
Yeah, it strikes
right?
some urgency and like
Strikes of
I haven't
urgency.
really done anything. I'm not a
I need to
high.
go in the gym. I need to
Yeah.
go wake up earlier. I need to read more books. I need to, run my business. I need to, get it, do whatever it takes to
Yeah,
get to the next.
you're not as big hot stuff as you thought
But
you
it's not
were.
even comparing. It's more of like who you're becoming in the process, right? And like, but I would say that that's one of the biggest things of one of the reasons why I moved to Miami. Also, your environment just in and of itself is key. So like right now it's cold in Toronto where I grew up. Here it's 82 degrees, right? And it's sunny and nice. So like,
You just looked and just like
yeah,
smiled with so much peace and joy, dude.
yeah, man, I go on my balcony every day and it's nice. So like, I think that having that flexibility, especially as an entrepreneur, man, it's like we have the capacity, especially if we run an online business. It's like you can go live, work wherever. And I believe that we should exercise that. I was like, why am I staying? I'm actually going back to Toronto next week. And I want to have like both kind of places, but
Mhm.
having one place that like you love being in your environment. I was walking on in South Beach yesterday, and I was like, I love where I live. I don't want to ever leave. right? Why would I leave? And then you go like, Brian, he invited me to dinner. Let's have cigars tomorrow with other entrepreneurs. So it's like you're just in like proximity. So I would say environment is critical. That was one of the biggest things when I was in the basement. That was one of my number one goals is get the fuck out, essentially. And I wanted to get into a condo downtown Toronto. That was my biggest goal. And by doing that and by being in that space, it allowed me the tranquility, the peace of mind, the solitude to build and to focus on my business. And so I would say environment is absolutely critical. And if you're in a place where you don't like to live, you're not a tree. You can always move.
Right. Jim Rohn says, in order for things to change, we got to change, right? We'll change your social circles, change your circumstances, change the people you hang around, change the things you listen to,
Yeah.
change the
Even
things
online,
you talk
brother.
about.
Online,
Dude,
right?
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. Like now in this digital age, right? So I'm from the South Side of Chicago. When I was a kid with a single mom with not a lot of money, I was bound by my location. So all the people that I hung around were from the South Side of Chicago. I couldn't change that location. It wasn't until I got 18 that I was able to change my environment and do that. But now with the click of a button, right, with the one decision, like you said, full pay something, now you're in a space and an environment, right? Because because the social media makes us group together by interest and not by physical location now.
Exactly.
You can be around people doing $1 million a month, $2 million a month, like that.
But
And
interesting to note, brother, I don't mean to cut you off. This is one thing too, is that all my friends that I now hang out with in person, I met online. I knew them years ago, but we never hung out because we were in different places. All of my friends that I now hang out with today, I was friends with them online first. I would chat with them on Facebook. I would chat with them on different mastermind groups. I would get on calls with them over Zoom, and we would just hang out on Zoom. Like we were helping each other out. And I formulated these relationships online before I ever met them in physical reality. And one of the things too is by investing into masterminds as well, you then can fly out and meet people in person.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that was another big thing. I invested into masterminds very early on as well. Like I was in Samson like 4 years ago, I think now. So like that also let me get proximity to people. But again, a lot of these guys, I was just in my condo in Toronto grinding, and I knew them. I knew all of them. I was friends with them. But then when I moved, I mean, it just so happened that a lot of them live in Miami now.
Yeah,
so that's another thing.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you said that because I get so pissed every single time. Sam's mastermind and my mastermind is on the same freaking weekend every time. That's why we hadn't had a chance to meet. And it's the same thing next year. I looked at the calendar and it's the same weekend. I'm like, dang it. So
I always do mine after I see a schedule.
Oh, yeah. So the next one, probably September, I'll be there so that we can have dinner and kind of connect. But I think I'll probably fly down to Miami to come see you. We have to do another one of these. You have to show me around, man, because this has been great.
In-person podcast, brother.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely gonna do that one next because I got some questions about how you're doing your videos and the green screen and like all that stuff that you're doing is next level. Pretty cool. But yeah, man, this has been phenomenal. I really enjoyed this. Definitely glad that I got out of my comfort zone and reached out to you. You know what I mean? Just to get you on to kind of share a little bit about your story and kind of me relive that process. And now we're thinking like, man, we really have come a long way and we've been doing some amazing work in a very, very short period of time. And we got a lot of amazing things left to do, man. So if people are, inspired by the story and want to kind of just connect with you, how can they get a hold of you? Maybe some socials or what your website is?
Yeah, well, one thing I do want to say before that, man, is like, I've seen you come up. You were in my DMs for years, brother. And I'll tell you this, I'm also super proud of you and where you came from because I know how much, time, how much sacrifice you put into this. And to see you now scale your business to multiple 7 figures and you're doing big things. You got the podcast, you're helping a bunch of students. You're absolutely killing it, man. So I'm also proud of you and what you've done so far. And I also appreciate you having me on here. But if anybody does want to find me, brother,
appreciate that, man.
YouTube. I know you like watching my YouTube videos. You can find me Mitch Gonsalves on YouTube. And yeah, I post videos at least like once a week. So you can go on that in terms of growing your business, scaling, mindset, talk a lot about that. So YouTube's probably the best place. And then also my website's executiveadvantage.co. And that's where our programs and stuff are. So you can go check it out from there.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thanks so much for hopping on. This has been phenomenal. And so we'll wrap it up with that. Thank you guys for listening in, and we'll see you on the next Raiment podcast. Take care.
Awesome.